if you're in the moment and you're just worrying about how you get through to that next little moment, I think that really helps. And I see those hard points in races almost like just little tunnels. You're going into a dark place, but there's light at the other end.
Hey everybody, I'm Christian Schaff. Welcome to the Life Uncharted Podcast. Each week we sit down with extraordinary people who have stuck their nose in the wind, stepped off the beaten path, and forged their own path to success. What made them do it? How did they succeed? And how can we follow in their groundbreaking footsteps? You're about to find out right now. Hey guys, today's guest is Tim O'Donnell. Tim's a former Navy guy and one of the most successful American long course triathletes of all time. He has multiple championships, including an ITU long distance world championship in 2009. But much like his wife, Rinny, who was our guest last week, Tim's just a great human. He's the kind of guy you can't help but root for and has become a very good friend of mine over the years. I sat down with Tim on the porch of his Boulder, Colorado home, and after a few glasses of wine, we got down to the important stuff, like why male triathletes have to shave their legs. I hope you enjoyed this one. Here we go. Today's code is TO. This code, entered at checkout at unchartedsupplyco.com, will get you the 72 shell for $50. That's a $100 discount, guys. Hurry, only 10 of these are available, and you know how it goes. Once they're gone, they're gone. Good luck. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Life Uncharted Podcast. I'm here with my buddy Tim O'Donnell. We're actually sitting outside his house in Boulder, Colorado. So this is the first one we haven't done at Park City TV, but you guys have a busy life, and I couldn't get you to Park City yet.
We're glad you came here. We will visit at some point.
I know you will.
Yeah, our little baby, 11-month-old daughter, Isabel, hates the car, so...
Oh, man. I can't wait to get you back on the slopes. I mean, the last time we did that was New Year's a few years ago, Steamboat. I remember Rinny was so worried you were going to tear a knee and kill half your income.
I'm glad you don't have any B-roll of that day.
You were fast. Kind of not great form, but really fast.
That's kind of my thing. I don't have the skills, but I don't have the fear either, so I can be a little more aggressive.
Well, hey, welcome. Thanks for doing this. This has been a fun experiment for me, and I'm just trying to interview all my really impressive friends and kind of learn to make some tick.
Yeah, and you know what? I remember when years ago, standing in our kitchen and you telling me about your idea for Uncharted.
Oh, really?
Yep. And I'm like, man, that's a really good idea.
Wait, when was this?
We were in the old house, so.
Where's your? Oh yeah, the condo. That's right.
Yeah.
I think I bought a bike from you.
Yeah,
or maybe it was after that.
And that was after that. Yeah, but we're so impressed. It's been a fun journey to watch you.
Thanks, man.
Just blow it up.
Appreciate it. So for people who are tuning in and not in the triathlon world, can you let everybody know who Tim O'Donnell is, in your words?
I've been racing professionally for 15 years now.
Racing triathlon,
yep. Former ITU long distance world champion, multiple Ironman champion. Former naval officer.
Right.
That's where I actually got into the sport when I was at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. Just hopped in. My older brother, Thomas, actually forced me to join the triathlon club team, and
you were a swimmer before, right?
I was a swimmer. Yep, I was on the team at the academy, and then my freshman year I was forced to try out, and then going into my junior year I decided to fully commit to triathlon. So stopped swimming, and got a coach, and kind of built from there.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
So I met you guys through an ex-girlfriend, and then I realized in order to hang out with everybody, I had to basically do triathlons too.
Yep.
And for a Midwestern farm kid that played football and hockey, that was a rude awakening. Man, I've always been humbled hanging out with you guys and learning about this sport, because to me it's pretty gnarly. I think people hear about triathlons and they kind of get it, but when you really break it down for people, it's pretty astounding.
It's definitely, I always joke that in terms of training hours and work you got to put in of all professional sports, it's probably got the worst return on investment.
Yeah, like how much do you think you make an hour?
Not enough.
Are you at minimum wage or not?
I could be.
It's not that you don't make a lot of money, but it's just that you put in
a lot.
No,
of time. It's Yeah. And I don't know, it's crazy. I mean, you love it so much, you don't mind doing it, but it's almost full year round, and it's, there's weeks where you're literally 40 hours of actual training, and that's not getting to the pool or getting to the track or, getting body work, things like that. So it's definitely very intensive, but we live in Boulder, Colorado, and who doesn't want to be outside riding their bike all day?
For sure. I mean, that's what everybody like aspires to, right?
Yeah.
But there's all these intangible compromises or sacrifices you guys make. Like I actually just noticed, this is the first time I think I've seen you with hair in your legs. I mean, typically you've got some pretty shorn legs.
Well, we gotta buy diapers now, so the razor money has gone to the diaper fund.
So I want to talk to you about this because there's all these conflicting reports. Because Brad, who works with Uncharted, my friend, he still shaves his legs. I'm trying to get him not to, but everybody else goes, well, it's in case you crash, right? Like, oh, then it's easier to clean the wounds, but nobody shaves their legs because they're going to crash.
Yeah, and there's definitely a vanity component to it. That's for sure.
But what is it? Is it just because when it sticks through compression socks, it looks weird, or what's the thing?
No, I think people like to see their veins pop out and like just feel good about yourself. Like I feel like when I shave my legs, I always joke with Rinny that it's like I just gained fitness.
Who taught you how to shave your legs?
I actually had to start doing it when I was a swimmer.
Okay.
So I remember I was probably like 13 or 14. And I remember having to shave my legs for the first time, and I was clueless. And I'm the youngest of four. We all swam, and nobody helped me. Now that I think back to it, I was. It
wasn't like your older brother helping you learn how to.
Yeah, no, they're like, just go in and put some shaving cream on it, and good luck. And I remember cutting. I was just covered in blood.
Oh my gosh!
Because you're shaving before you shave your face too, right?
Well, right. At 13, I was not shaving.
Yeah.
Does it make you faster, or does it feel faster?
It absolutely makes you faster in the water, 100%. Yeah.
So I've read some things, like I know Specialized did some studies with some dudes, right? Where they
riding in the wind tunnel. Yeah.
And he would shave, no pun intended, like minutes off an Ironman time.
That actually makes sense. If you look at just like the way the air will roll off a smooth surface versus a rough surface. And it absolutely makes sense that it would be faster.
So is the technique then to train with hair and then shave right before, so it just kind of feels better?
It's pure laziness, Christian.
Oh, okay.
I just haven't found the time.
Well, what's Rinny? Rinny doesn't have that excuse.
Her hair, she doesn't have dark, coarse hair like this. You don't want to run your legs on her or your hands on her legs right now. I don't know.
Well, also it's your wife. I'm not going to do that. True. But I'm going to talk to her next. But so you've been in triathlon for 15 years.
Yep.
And I mean, that's a long time to do anything. I haven't done anything for 15 years. So your brothers got you into this, right?
Yep. My older brother, Thomas.
And he was doing triathlons, or he was just swimming?
He was. So he was a senior at the Naval Academy my freshman year. And if anybody's familiar with the service academies, when you're a plebe or a freshman, you do whatever the upper class tell you to do. So I remember my brother actually walking into my room and being like, get up, let's go. We're going to triathlon, the tryout. I'm like, no, man, I'm a swimmer. He's like, no, get up. Come on, let's go. I'm like, okay. So I borrowed his bike. He put me on his bike, and I absolutely trashed it. I dropped the chain into the chainstay and ripped a couple layers of carbon off. I hit a bunch of potholes and stripped the
on the very first ride?
Yeah, on the tryout, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I came in and there's carbon coming off the bike and the handlebars are falling off because I've hit potholes and the bolts stripped and he's just in shock, his jaw dropped. That's his baby,
Right.
He spent his whole savings on that bike and I'm like, here you go.
Well, how good was your brother? I mean, you're at a very elite level now. Was he
he was
comparable?
Good. Yeah. He was one of the better guys on the triathlon team. Guy that could win a local race for sure.
And this was the Naval Academy?
This is at the Naval Academy, yeah. But I love my sister-in-law, Karen, very much. But once he met Karen, his eventual wife. His priorities changed, yeah.
Got it. So Naval Academy, but you were in your teens. Is this like a ROTC high school thing, or is this after high school?
No, this is in high school, yeah. Or no, sorry, this is college. Naval Academy, yeah.
Okay, right. And where was this?
Annapolis,
Maryland.
Yep.
Okay. Why did you go into the Navy?
Actually, Thomas. Yeah, Thomas was I guess I just kind of followed him around. He was a good older brother.
He's a big influence.
Yeah, he really was. They were both distance swimmers. He was really locked on, great student, kind of knew what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I had no intention of going to the Naval Academy for college. he had always wanted to go there, and he's just like, yeah, just come visit for a week or a weekend. And I said, okay. I went and visited, and this was my must have been early senior year, maybe late junior year of high school. I went and visited him, and I really appreciated everything that was going on there. It was just such a sense of service and just a sense of something greater. And I really got attracted to that.
Purely unintentional, but almost everybody I've had on this podcast has some kind of military experience, whether it was going on tours with me over there, or they've served, or they were special forces. But it's funny how that theme keeps coming up with, call it exceptional or elite individuals.
I think there's something in the mindset of the people that go into the service and go on to do some other great things. So
what was your kind of area of expertise when you were at the academy?
Well, in terms of studies, I was a naval architect. Naval architecture was my major. And then after I graduated, I went on to Cal Berkeley and got my master's in ocean engineering. On the service side of things, I went into the special operations community, which is people get confused with SEALs. SEALs is special warfare. Special operations is explosive ordnance disposal. So if you've seen the movie The Hurt Locker, those are EOD guys. So that's
so you were like underwater EOD.
Underwater, right. So I actually went to Cal, and then I went to my command, EOD Group 1 in Coronado, just San Diego, California. And I went to dive school, did the EOD dive training. And then my command sent me to the Olympic Training Center as part of the World Class Athlete Program, which not a lot of people know.
Yeah, tell me about that. How do you get into that?
Yeah, so at the time, the Army had an actual proper program. They had a whole chain of command in Colorado Springs, I think 130 athletes or something in the World Class Athlete Program. But the Navy was more case by case. So I put together this whole package, like, here's what I can do. At the time, I won the Armed Services Triathlon Championships for several years in a row. And I said, this is how I think I can represent the EOD special operations and the Navy and the Armed Forces through sport, and how I can be ambassador through sport and kind of help.
So it's kind of an ambassador recruitment program.
It really is part of the PR recruitment side of the services.
And how many people are in this every year?
The Navy is completely case by case. So I think when I was in it, there was a rower, and I think that was it. Whereas the Army had, I think, 100 to 130, mainly wrestlers and boxers. And the Marine Corps had a pretty robust boxing and wrestling program.
And then does your focus kind of become professional athlete-esque?
It did at that time. Yeah, they're like, okay, your goal is now to go make Olympic trials, and then make Olympic trials your goal is to go to the Olympics.
Got it.
So I did that. At the same time, I was in Colorado Springs, so I worked with the recruiting arm in Denver of the Navy. So I did some stuff with them, and then really just raced and represented the Navy on the.
How many years is that?
This was probably about maybe 2 years.
2 years. And then you age out of it, or you're...
Well, at that point...
enlistment's done, or...
Yeah, no, I finished sixth at trials, so I missed the Olympic team by a few spots. And at that point, I went back to my command in San Diego, and I was a little bit torn. Okay, what do we do here? In one sense, I feel like I haven't really done what I set out to do in the Navy. But on the other hand... I've had this budding professional triathlon career that maybe, could be something really great. And I remember going back to my command and talking to my boss, Kevin, and who, just complete happenstance had raced triathlon professionally when he was younger. And he's like, Tim, you know what? You've done what we've asked you to do, and you shouldn't feel any obligation to stay here if you want to go, if what you really want to do is go chase your dream. And he said, honestly, you're behind your year group a little bit in terms of promotion and where you're at in terms of, the community. And, you have a lot of talent. And if it were me, I would be chasing that dream, and I'd go, see what you can do on the professional circuit.
Were you hoping to hear that?
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was a really hard decision for me.
I bet.
Because it was...
military guys don't like feeling like they're getting out early coming back while their guys are still over. That's something I hear all the time.
And I had incredible support in the community, but there's always that little, some people think it's great what you're doing, and other people think, well, why aren't you doing what everybody else is? Some people think have to do, or what, you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So there was definitely always that little bit of tension, but yeah, it was to get that kind of blessing, I guess, from Kevin and the guys in San Diego. That was really big.
That's rad. So what's the next step then? I mean, you had this kind of structure, right, and support,
and then a paycheck and health insurance.
That's probably the best deal you can have.
Right. Yeah.
And then suddenly you're like, okay, so now what that's like, I got to find a coach, and that probably dictates where I move to, and I got to make some money. And like, what's the process?
So for me, I was at the Olympic Training Center, and I had to kind of decide if I was going to continue to chase the Olympic dream or move on to race the Ironman triathlons, which are much longer races. The Olympic race is 2 hours. It's a 1.5K swim or just under a mile swim, 25-mile bike, and a 10K or 6.2-mile run.
That's my sweet spot, by the way.
It is. It's a nice spot, man. You finish racing and you can have a nice breakfast. Like
and you can like go about your day.
Yeah, you still have a full day. Whereas Ironman, which is for those who aren't familiar with an Ironman, it's a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike, and a marathon. So 26.2-mile run. There's no breakfast being served at 3:30 p.m. when you finish that.
Right. Dude, I've always told people, not that completing an Ironman isn't difficult, but there's a massive difference between completing and competing. Like, I think most people can go out and train for several months and do a race and get to the finish line.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't worry about the clock.
Yeah.
Just complete. But when I see how freaking fast you guys go, I mean, I've run marathons and I've done half Ironmans. And the thought of doing a marathon after 112 miles of biking and almost 2.5 miles of swimming is still hard for me to grasp at the speeds you guys are running at. So just to give people context, like your fastest Ironman is sub 8 hours.
7:55.
7:55. Break that down. Like what's your average speed on the bike? What's your average mile?
So it's probably about a 26 mile an hour average on the bike for 4 to 4.5 hours, and then running a 2:45 marathon off of that.
Which turns into what per mile?
6:15s maybe.
6:15s,
Yeah.
low sixes.
Yeah, low sixes.
Like if I ran a sub 3 hour marathon, I would feel like probably wasn't the greatest shape of my life.
You'd get to Boston with that, right?
You would.
Yeah.
You would.
And well, don't forget, like, when you look at the major marathons are all run in really nice conditions. The year that I remember one year in New York, it was like in the 70s and the times were horrific. It was like 75 or 78 or something.
Yeah, I think my best marathon time ever was New York City Marathon, and it was freezing.
Yeah.
Because once you warm up, then it's great.
Right,
but
yeah.
I know where you're going with this. You go to Kona.
Yeah, imagine in Kona now you're getting off the bike. It's not in the morning. It's, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock maybe. And the ground temperature's over 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And the humidity's maxed out.
I remember a couple of years ago, I was following you guys around on the course, and I had my road bike, and I was ducking into every Starbucks I could find to cool off and get water, and I was just spectating.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Like, you look at, so for a women's marathon, for example, the Commonwealth Games was this year in Gold Coast, Australia. Really hot day.
Yeah.
Hot, humid day. And the women's champion, Com Games gold medalist ran like a 2:38. Rinny, for those that don't know, my wife.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Herself.
She's running 250 in Kona off the bike, and probably even harder conditions.
In the harshest conditions.
Yeah. So there's not really that much of a gap, considering.
So you've been doing this for 15 years.
15, yeah.
I'm really curious how somebody I feel like every time I talk to you, you're trying something new or testing new gear, changing something. How do you stay motivated that long doing something and incremental improvements over that time?
Yeah, that's the beauty about, I think, Ironman racing. It's really a puzzle, right? And there's so many different pieces that you finish a race and you can have the best race. You can have a PR, and you still, right when you cross the finish line, you're like, okay, well, I could have done this better, or I need to do this better. And it's really such a test of yourself that it's really all about, self-improvement. And not just in terms of your finish time, more about what you learn about yourself and how you solve problems. And I have an engineering background, and I think while I'm not building boats or offshore oil rigs, I'm kind of using that those critical thinking skills that I developed through those degrees to problem solve out there on the race course.
We talk a lot in my business about preparedness and just planning for what might happen, right? So it's not expecting things to happen, but you could blow a tire, or your chain could break, or your water bottle could fall off, or you could crash, or whatever. You could cramp up. I've always been pretty amazed with how you guys kind of plan ahead for all that stuff. But walk through, you're going into like the biggest race of the year. How much preparation goes into that? This isn't like lackadaisical.
Yeah, no, it is. I almost feel like it's 24/7.
But for what, months before? I mean,
pretty much the whole year.
You're like training right now.
I don't feel like it stops. Yeah. I mean, it's, you take a couple days. Usually we take a week and we're on the beach after Kona. But you're still always, it's always kind of haunting you almost. I mean, you go to sleep and things are running through your head. You wake up and there's something else running through your head about the sport and about the race. And really, I mean, particularly we talk about, the Ironman World Championships in Kona. I mean, it's that demanding, if you really want to excel in those conditions. But, getting back to what you talked about, being prepared and facing those kind of unforeseen issues on race day, it's not only trying to think ahead, but it's also about keeping your cool and being able to know how to use the tools that you have to solve that problem.
Well, even one of the things I hear from people is you're going to have low points. Just having that experience to know that it gets better.
Right.
And being able to navigate those things.
Yeah. And you have to stay in the moment, I think. Whenever, it's not just Ironman racing, but it's a lot of things in life. If you look at the whole picture, it's quite overwhelming, right?
Right. It totally is.
And it's daunting and it's intimidating. But if you're in the moment and you're just worrying about how you get through to that next little moment, I think that really helps. And I see those hard points in races almost like just little tunnels. You're going into a dark place, but there's light at the other end. You just have to keep moving forward and keep yourself together while you're in that tunnel.
How do you practice that on a day-to-day basis? Is there a way to kind of prepare for potential adversity when you're in a race?
There's definitely spots in training where you have to decide.
Like you guys, I know you guys will swim and then jump out of the pool and jump on your bike that's on a trainer because you want to get that transition. I mean, 10 seconds can be really meaningful, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of things like that, right?
Yeah, and I think, my coach, Julie Dibbins, is here in town. So, having someone there keeping you accountable and, not letting you take the easy way out sometimes helps as well.
So that brings me to a question. We were talking about this today. Walk me through like a typical day or maybe like an overview of a week.
Right.
Just to give people an idea of the volume and the commitment that goes into this.
Yeah. So like Tuesday, for example, last week I had 11 mile run in the morning. We were,
so what time do you wake up?
It depends. Like some days you're in the pool at 5:45. Some days you're meeting at 6:30 for a run.
You're not rolling out of bed at 11.
No, you're not rolling out of bed at 11. I'm not a morning person either, but it does help to get the training done early.
Sure.
But yeah, that Tuesday it was 11-mile run, 6 miles of it at about 5:30 pace at the end, the last half of it.
And by the way, we're in Boulder, which is
mile high,
6,000 feet elevation, roughly.
Right into a 6,000 meter swim session. And then a nice little 45-minute strength session with my strength coach, Aaron. And then into, 2.5 hour ride with 15, 4 by 15 minute hill repeats.
And what time are you done at?
A day like that, you're done at 3 and then you're, hitting the ice bath or getting a massage or something like that. And then I try to be done everything by 5 p.m. to be home with my girl.
Yeah.
My girls, plural.
Girls, right. I want to get to that too. But so back to this day, like how many calories do you consume in a day like that? And what are you eating?
Oh man, I wish I could tell you a number, but I just eat a lot.
Would you say twice as much as like a normal person?
I don't know. When I was at the training center, I could still only do one Chipotle burrito at a time. But when I was at the Olympic Training Center, the Michigan swim team was there and with Phelps. And actually, when you would watch the Olympic coverage and they talk about how much he eats, it's true. I mean,
plates.
It was insane. But I feel like I probably don't eat that much. As you get older, you get more metabolically efficient as well with all the training.
Right.
You just kind of learn to utilize everything you have.
So your first Ironman, do you remember your time?
I think it was around 8:10, 8:09, I think. 8:09.
Your very first marathon you did, or Ironman, you did 8:09.
Yeah.
And your best is 7:55.
Yep.
But that's a meaningful amount of time.
Yeah, breaking 8 hours is was at the time kind of a big thing.
Yeah, I remember
it's so course dependent now too. And all the courses have different terrain, and some of them are measured differently. So,
what have been the biggest things that have helped you improve your time over 15 years? Has there been any and then suddenly things clicked at a faster pace?
A lot of it is just a grind, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's nothing glamorous about getting to where I'm at the sport. Just hard work and attention to detail. I think I did a lot of work on my run because I was a swimmer. I didn't really have that leg speed, so I had to do a lot of run focus. 2009, 2010, when I transitioned from the Navy and got into Ironman racing, I was doing 90, 95-mile run weeks just to try to become a better runner.
Wow. I mean, that's a ton of volume. Do you break down a lot? I mean, injuries, are there things that happen? Or when I work out a lot for a week, I think you guys call them niggles. Is that what you call them?
Yeah, no, you do. Yeah, your body starts acting up in weird ways. You just have to kind of manage it. I've been very lucky. I've had a few injuries. I broke my foot in January, but that was more of a direct impact kind of trauma thing. But yeah, other than that, I've had, maybe one or two kind of injuries that sidelined me for a couple of weeks. But, overall, I'm pretty durable.
Seems like it. Yeah. I mean, I think you have to be, right? I think the people that aren't probably fall off.
I think when you start, when you start getting up into the Ironman ranks, you tend to get more of the Clydesdales and the thoroughbreds in terms of, just
durability.
Those big, durable, diesel engines.
Are you still getting nervous at races?
I think when you stop getting nervous, if you're not getting nervous at a race, you're not prepared. Your mind's not where it should be at. And I've had races where I'm not nervous, and I'm, like one race I almost forgot to pump my tires up, and they were dead flat. And I knew, at that point, that I'm like, I'm gonna have a bad race because my head is not where it needs to be at.
So you think nerves are good?
I think nerves are good. Yeah, you have to be able to control them properly.
It means it's meaningful to you too.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's something it's something that you've put a lot into, right?
What's the most nervous you've ever been?
Man.
Or is it always the same?
It definitely varies. I'd say probably the first time I did Kona was my
And what year was that?
That was 2011.
11.
Like we said, I had a strong Ironman debut that first Ironman, and it was kind of billed as the Great American Hope. And just for the viewers that aren't familiar, I don't think an American's won the Kona since 2002.
Really? And who's that?
That was Tim DeBoom.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a while.
So we're still holding out for that.
We're still holding out, yeah. But I'm not done yet.
You got this. Well, I think it was 2015 that I was there, that you were third, right?
Yep.
Can you walk me through that day? Because as I had a spectator's view, but also a little bit closer because I was hanging out with you guys before, watching the preparation. There's weird moments that I remember, even like you guys talking about what kind of sweatband you were getting stitched into your visor 2 days before. I mean, there's no detail that goes unturned. And Mark working on your bike, I hang out with Mark while he's playing with your bike, and just I felt like something was going to happen that day, and it kind of did. I mean, it was awesome, but it was so close yet.
Right. It was there. I think at 17 and a half miles, I was only about a minute down off of the lead.
17 and a half miles into the marathon.
Into the marathon, yeah. So you're talking, a couple miles from the finish.
Yeah.
But it was definitely it was one of the hottest days. I mean, Kona's hot, but then you get days that are really hot.
That was wicked.
Yeah. So, I remember getting ready and I had the wrong gearing on my bike.
I remember that. I wasn't going to bring it up.
I was like, but
and I own your old bike. So we were like, oh no, that's a different group set.
So luckily we got there was one chain ring and the correct size on the entire island that we were able to get our hands on.
I remember we couldn't ship it there fast enough.
But, I also remember about that is that it didn't, I was like, okay. I was
figure it out.
Very, just calm and controlled. The same day, Rennie got hit by a car, right?
I was with her on that.
It was just this crazy day. And, I hit race day and 60 miles into the bike, there's a big climb that's a turnaround to the bike. And it's about a 10K climb up to the turnaround. And all the years past, I'd always gotten dropped at that point. So going into that climb.
Hold on, I want to get to this.
Yep.
What place were you in the swim?
Towards the front. I don't know. Yeah.
So that day where you were going in, you're like, I feel like I'm in this.
Yeah. No. I mean,
did it feel different, or did it just feel like another race?
I had a really bad race the year before, my worst race there.
Yeah. And
I just felt like I needed to have a good race just to redeem myself.
Right.
And I didn't have any pressure too. I mean, I had such a bad race the year before that people's eyes
couldn't get worse
on other guys. Yeah. It couldn't get worse. I'm like, well, what do you got to lose? I mean, last year was pathetic, right?
Not so much pathetic, but I heard. I remember watching an Ironman broadcast. Yeah, but I can't remember who it was. If it was Sebastian Kienle or somebody, but they said something about you make a decision at some point whether to go for the podium or to go for top 10. Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting because what he was saying is it's kind of a gamble for everybody.
Yeah.
To go for the podium and see if your body has it that day.
Yep.
Because either you're going to make it or you're not.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're going to get dropped off the back hard. You're going to blow up.
It is.
And I'd never thought about that, but that's even at that level where people know their bodies better than anybody else on earth. And you've been doing this for 15 years. It's still a card game halfway into this race.
Yeah, absolutely. That race is the biggest gamble in our sport. 100%.
And is that just because of the heat and the humidity?
It's the conditions, it's the atmosphere, it's the pressure, it's the competition. I mean, it's one day a year where you get everybody in the sport, the best guys in the sport in the best shape of their lives.
This isn't a B race for anybody.
No, yeah. Right. I mean, everybody's coming in with guns blazing, right?
Right.
And honestly, particularly in the men's race, there's 10 or 15 guys that, could easily be on the podium if not win that on that day. But it's an 8-hour race. It's one day a year. It's not a best. It's not a best in 7 series, right?
Right. It's not the World Series.
Yeah. And little mistakes that you make early. You just miss a water bottle early in the bike. You miss a gel. They seem, just kind of irrelevant.
Inconsequential.
At the time. Inconsequential.
Right.
But 4 hours later, all that builds up, and then it comes back and bites you in the ass. So, you have to be on your game.
So that day, you were feeling good. You came out of the water towards the front.
Yeah, I was feeling good. Actually, I didn't know I was feeling good in the swim. The swim's kind of, you hope it's kind of a non-event. If, for me, I have a swimming background. The only thing that can really happen in the swim is something goes terribly wrong. Mm-hmm. But nothing went wrong. And there's a short little climb, a few K into the bike. And I just decided I wanted to get towards the front of the group. And I kind of made a little push, and my legs felt really good. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I got my bike legs today. So, I kept in a great position on the bike. And then towards that turnaround point in Javi, which is about 60 miles into the bike, my whole goal was not to get dropped. Every year leading into that year, I'd gotten dropped, and that was my race. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, let's be ready to go. Let's not get dropped. Well, I turn around and look, and I'm off the front, and I'm by myself, going into the turnaround. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to roll the dice here, like we were talking about. If I can get a top 10, I'd done it before several times. I'm not here to get a top 10. I'm here to try to win this race. Yeah, so I went for it at that point. And,
I remember, I think we watched you guys right out of town, and then you kind of, it's hard to follow you guys. So the best thing you can do is find a TV. I remember going back to my Airbnb, and I flipped open my laptop, and then there you were in first place. And I think when I left, you were, 10th or 12th or something. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? And then what I remember is they thought you had a flat or something for a while.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that.
They kept saying something because you were like sitting up and looking back.
Oh yeah.
And they kept going, I think, and I'm like, no, like actually, I was probably happier for you.
I was a little low on fuel at that point. I think I was getting hangry. No, but I was really mad because they're supposed to have and they made a point of this at the pro briefing that they would have a support vehicle with the leader of the race.
And a support vehicle has spare tires.
Right, yeah.
Right.
All that stuff. And I turn around and I'm like, where's my support vehicle,
Why weren't they with you?
They were back with the guys that had won the races previously.
Were they confused or what?
No, I think they were just kind of, I think they told me something. I don't
Playing
remember.
favorites?
Yeah.
I'll say it.
I'm not going to say it.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you're out in front, crank around that turning point you're talking about.
Yep.
And what are you thinking at this point?
I'm thinking I could win this race. I'm in a great position. I feel good. Why can't it be me, really?
Mm-hmm.
And I think.
Were there any doubts creeping up? Anything like I went too hard?
No, I mean at that point you get a lot of positive energy and adrenaline from being at the pointy end of the spear on the front of the race.
Sure.
So I think I was just kind of riding high at that point. And actually, I was just happy I didn't get dropped. I was coming down on the descent from the turnaround in Javi, and I was just kind of looking back, waiting for. Everybody's like, "Don't look back! Don't look back!"
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I was just assuming the other guys were going to come up, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss the train.
Got it.
But nobody ever came.
And how fast? There's one spot you guys really get going.
We're 60 miles an hour, maybe, or close to.
For those of you listening, there's no engine on these bikes. 60 miles an hour, and you're in a pretty. I mean, triathlon bikes are not exactly stable and comfortable a lot of times. I mean,
yes. Well, there's that part of the course is a really strong crosswind at times too. So,
oh yeah.
It wasn't that bad that day, but you never know when a gust is going to come and move you across the road.
And you guys are fully tucked, like chins on handlebars.
Yeah, you're dropped down. You're dropped down on your top tube and just trying to have the smallest profile possible.
So you do a 2.5 mile swim, a little less, 112 miles on the bike. You ditch your bike. And you've been pushing pretty hard for a few hours now. And I have to run a marathon in the hottest conditions on earth, basically. Do you ever have a moment where it's like, I don't even know if I can go 26 miles. I mean, you might be out front, but I've been there in the little races I've done.
Yeah.
You have a half marathon left, and it's like 13 miles. That's
it's you just think about the step in front of you, and I think that's how you keep going. It's almost like you're just doing diagnostic check on yourself. Like,
so, is it what's the mental game for you?
Mental game is keep it simple.
And you break it into just 1 minute, focus for 1 minute.
Yeah, I break it into like focusing on either my relaxing my shoulders, just kind of cues in my form.
Yeah,
because if you can hold your form together, you can usually hold your pace. Once you start losing your form and your arms start flailing and feet start dragging, it's just downhill.
Then you get more inefficient. You're burning more energy every step.
You're using more energy and not going as fast. So.
Right. So how long did you stay up front?
Well, I came in to towards the end of the bike. Jan Frodeno, the eventual winner of the day, and Sebastian Kienle, the defending champion, caught me. So it was the three of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jan and I dropped Sebastian at the end of the bike. Well, Jan did. I was just trying to hang on to. And then Jan took the lead on the run, and he opened up a big gap to I think 3 or 3.5 minutes in the first 10 miles. And then I brought it back down to, I think, almost a minute, or around a minute at that 17, 18 mile mark. And I think that was kind of my fight to try to win it.
Yeah.
And it didn't really pan out. And I definitely struggled the last few miles. And that's when I got caught. I got caught like a mile out of town for second place.
Yep.
By Andy Rehler, another German athlete.
But you're coming down the chute. You've made the podium.
Yep.
And if people have never, this isn't like a triathlon podcast, so people may be unfamiliar with this, but it's a pretty amazing sight. I mean, there's thousands of people lining the streets, and after spending a day kind of solo,
yep,
it's got to be pretty cool to come in there. Did you feel? Were you happy? Were you disappointed? Was it a bittersweet thing?
No, I was definitely happy. I mean, I felt like it was my best result time-wise and place-wise. But I also felt like I just put together a really great race, and I really fought. Both, at the end of the day, that's what you have to be proud of. What you were able to put forward. You have your version of the self on race day. That's what you have to work with. Now, how much of that are you going to get out of yourself? And if you can get 100% of that out, then you've had just one of those special days. So
yeah.
But it's interesting. You hit that kind of finish stretch, and there's so much energy. There's so many people. Anybody that hasn't been to this race, honestly, just as a spectator, it's unbelievable. The energy there, it's crazy. I went and watched my wife Rinny the 2 years before I started racing, and it got me hooked. That's why I decided not to try to go to the Olympics and start doing Ironman racing, is because I went to this race.
Wow. And
you've been out on your own for 8, 9, up to 17 hours, and you come in all this energy, and it's almost like you don't even know how to process it. It's just, you're tired, you're dehydrated, and
it's just emotional.
It's just emotional, yeah. But actually, I didn't celebrate until after I crossed the finish line, because I've seen the footage.
Oh yeah, there's those videos.
Footage of this race where, I mean, people winning the race, athletes, fighting for 3rd or 4th place, crawling to the finish line. Like, this race is not over until you cross this finish line. And I was in my head the whole time. I'm like, you do not celebrate. You make this happen. You solidify this result, and then you celebrate.
Wait, so let's go back a second. This is funny because Rinny's sitting here too. But did you know of Rinny before you knew Rinny?
We had actually met a couple times before we properly met. Rinny also raced Olympic distance racing, and
So when did you guys first cross paths?
To her recollection or my recollection?
This is your moment.
Because we met a few times that she doesn't remember.
Oh, all right. For real, or is that?
Yeah, no. Yeah, like 2006, I was in Australia training with the U.S. national team, and she was there training with her squad, and we had a mutual friend that was on her team, and they came to find one of my friends, and they came in my apartment looking for them, and I was standing there like working on my bike with my shirt off, looking good, right?
She doesn't remember you?
No, she didn't even remember that. I'm like, man, that was A game right there.
Those are power moves,
right,
Tim.
That was a fail. But then the next time we met was 2008. So we officially met in 2009 at a race in St. Croix. But the summer before, we met in Texas at a 70.3 in the medical tent.
No way.
Lubbock, Texas in the summer, hot and humid as heck. And
tell me your pickup line was, so you come here often?
Yeah. I don't remember what I said, but I had the IV in my arm, and she was like on death's door. And I said something to her, and she was just like, bah.
But she remembered you that time?
No, she didn't remember me that time.
That's twice.
I know, twice.
So then when did she remember you?
There are times I had to win a race. That's what.
Oh, I see. You needed an alpha.
No, we met in St. Croix before the race, 70.3, and it was at the pasta party. And we sat down at the table, and I was an unknown. That was like kind of my first year on the long course scene. And everybody's kind of like, who's this guy?
She was known and you were an unknown.
She was known, yeah. And I actually made a point to go sit at her table,
right.
Sat next to her for dinner. But then we both did the race, and it was my first win as a professional. Broke the course record, outstanding race. And then, we met again at the after party.
More impressive than the medical tent.
More impressive than the medical tent. And she was a little more cognizant. She wasn't quite as delirious.
So how did that go?
That was good. Yeah. No, that was great.
She remember your name, or was it more like, oh,
she did. Actually, the week before I was going out to this race, and a mutual friend of ours, Mary, was like, you know what? When we get back to Boulder, I have somebody I want you to meet. And she was talking about Rinny, and Rinny was just coming to Boulder for the summer, which she had done in the years past. So she comes back from St. Croix and calls up Mary and says, hey, do you know this guy, Tim O'Donnell? And she's like, oh, Rinny, like, it's going to be a good summer.
And it was?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
How long did it take for you guys to connect?
Well, so Rinny Facebooked me, and
Facebook poked you, or
she friended me. I don't even know what's a
friend request.
I think it was a friend request, and obviously she hadn't remembered me a couple times, so I needed to kind of reestablish the balance of power.
100%.
So I let it simmer. I let their
How long?
run
How long?
a couple weeks, probably a
Couple weeks.
A couple weeks.
Did you like log into Facebook and make sure it's still there a couple times?
Yeah. Doesn't mean I wasn't still Facebook stalking her. I probably pushed it a little too far, I think.
That worked.
But it worked, yeah. So then we went on a first date to Red Rocks Amphitheater.
Who'd you see?
Well, we went to see Movie on the Rocks.
Oh, okay.
We went to see Princess Bride, but I didn't buy tickets before. I assumed I'd never been to Red Rocks.
I've done that.
Yeah, I assumed we could just roll up and get tickets. It's completely sold out. So we ended up going and having dinner in Morrison.
Okay.
At this restaurant called Prague. And, bottle of wine, we turn around and the place is closed, shut down. All the chairs are on all the tables. Like we were the only people left.
It's kind of like a romantic movie.
It was,
though, man.
yeah. It was I think it actually worked a lot better. I got a second date out of it, which was the important part.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. And you guys have grown your wine collection since that first bottle.
Since then, yep. Since that first bottle.
Do you have that first cork still?
You know what? At the time, we weren't collecting corks.
Because you have, I don't know,
We got
what,
some
10,000 over there? How many?
We got a few. It's a work in progress.
Nice. So what year was that?
That was 2009.
9.
Yeah.
You guys dated for a long time then?
Yeah, we got engaged in 2012.
Okay.
Married in 13.
13. And now there's 3 of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And last year, 2017, we had little Isabel.
I was here a year ago. I think it's the
You
last
were
time I
here
saw
for
you.
the baby shower. That's right.
Which was more like
It was more of a frat party.
Yeah. I
The
remember
police
you up
may
on
or may not have come.
They may have. 2-story beer bongs.
2-story beer bongs, yep.
I remember Rini just standing there holding her stomach, kind of shaking her head, but kind of smiling too. Like, one of your buddies, you guys had balloons, and they were in the house, and he cut the strings on them so they all went to the ceiling.
They were up there for a
making
while.
it more difficult to get down. And I'll never forget looking over, and Rini it was late, and she was very pregnant, and just sitting there and just kind of looking at him like, why? Like, what do you know, like everybody's had a pretty good
And this
time.
wasn't 20 weeks into the pregnancy. Like,
No.
we are, we're kind of a few weeks out here at this point.
But your mom was right there with us.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she shut the place down too, didn't she?
Yeah, I left before her.
And the best part about that is we committed to a ride the next morning.
Oh yeah.
And we ended up. That was
a ride. You, me, Greg Bennett, and your buddy
Josh.
Josh.
Yeah. Yep.
Who helped build the house.
Right. Yep. And we climbed up to Ward, which is 9,000 feet. 9,000 feet.
Yeah,
elevation.
and for people listening, I like riding my bicycle, but I don't know, third as fast as these guys. And Greg Bennett is a Olympian, and
Yep.
he's won a lot of Ironman. I mean, this is. I don't care how drunk you were the night before; it's still difficult for me to keep.
That
up.
was one of the hardest rides of my life.
That's good because it was one of the hardest rides of my life too. You said Josh was sick for a couple weeks.
He was, yeah. We took him out of commission for a few weeks.
I just remember getting to that little store and buying Coca-Colas.
Yeah,
and
Cokes and cookies and.
Yeah, I have pictures actually. I think I'm crying in one of them. The beauty of riding with you guys, though, is I weigh probably 40 pounds more, so I'm always faster downhill, which is really fun.
But you got to get to the top.
Yeah, but I got to the top. Oh man, amazing. So you got a little girl, got your wife, got a beautiful home here. Been doing this for 15 years. What's the future?
15 more? I don't know. No, actually, I feel great. I raced the Ironman Asia Pacific Champs in June, and honestly, it was the best I'd felt in an Ironman competition ever.
What do you think the sweet spot is age-wise?
I think
endurance kind of comes with a little bit of
it does, yeah.
time, right?
I mean, I equate it to having a bank account. Every time we're doing all these workouts, we're depositing into that account. And, the account's pretty full right now in terms of fitness. So, yeah, I mean, I'm 37. I feel great. You see guys, Craig Alexander, 3-time Ironman world champion. He's in his mid 40s now, still winning half Ironman races, still very relevant. So yeah, I plan on doing it for as long as the body and the mind hold up.
Right. And what have there been any big changes this year? I mean, I just imagine you put all the pieces together and come in third. And if it was me, I'd cross that line and probably think, what do I have to do to get those other 5 minutes or whatever. And is that where your brain works? I mean, you got, like you said, you got to go to bed at night thinking.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Not only, the game's changing too. The competition's getting better as well. So
times are dropping like crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's an evolving sport
and a moving target.
Absolutely. So
I mean, and that's an interesting point. We were talking about this earlier, but you watch the Olympics and there's world records from 4 years ago, and people beat them by 7/100ths of a second. And I know that these are longer duration events, but you see these times keep dropping, and then you'll see somebody come out of nowhere and be 20 minutes faster.
Right.
How confident is everybody in the fact that everybody's clean out here? I mean, and I hope I'm not crossing any lines, but cycling's got the reputation it does, and cycling's a part of triathlon, and it's very similar kind of fuel systems and how the body works. And I know with you guys, like that New Year's and Steamboat, I remember you guys needing the address of where we're going to be to let WADA, or is it WADA, or whoever the drug
WADA
testers,
and USADA, yep.
They were going to come out to the cabin. They might show up and test. And do you, when you see something like that, does it make you question at all?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind it's happening.
Really?
Yeah, which is unfortunate, but as any sport grows,
people will do anything to win.
Right, yeah. I mean, people will literally do anything to win, and they will rationalize. But that's not why I got into this sport. I got into the sport to test myself.
Right.
And if I'm not doing that honest and I'm not doing that clean,
you wouldn't enjoy a victory.
Right, yeah. I mean, what's the point, I mean, I'm in this for, personal improvement and achievement and to see what I'm made of,
Yeah.
But you can't, I don't think you can think about it too much. I mean, I know people that have won Kona, and I'm 100% they're clean. My wife being one of them, right? So at the end of the day, I know it can be done clean. And I know that if I focus on myself, that's going to put my best race. And if I put my best race forward, then I have a shot to win that race too.
And you can sleep at night.
Yeah.
I just think, though, I look at you guys, and you're my friends. I know how much time you've invested into trying to get these goals. And by the way, I'm not saying that anybody that beat you, like in 2015 or anything, was doping at all. But if you learn 10 years later, let's just say hypothetically, the two people have been doping, and you think, man, so I was the first place clean guy, and the sponsorship that would have came with that the next year, or the face on the banners, or coming down that chute first, that's, I don't want to call it your life goal, but that's a big goal in your life.
Well, yeah, at that point, it's almost like something's being stolen from you, right?
Right.
And I've had one race where someone in front of me has tested positive, and it kept me off the podium actually at a race. So that was actually dollars in my, that.
Do they get that back to you, or no?
No, it's too hard to chase up at that point.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, like when Rogers Bannister broke 4-minute mile, right? Like once someone does something great, it just seems to be psychologically easier for everybody else to do it. So I think, when you have guys racing faster, I do think guys just step up, and have better races. But you talk about cycling, the postal team, those guys we just watched the video. They're openly talking about what happened, right?
Right.
And now you see performances
way better. And humans aren't evolving that fast.
So I mean, at some point you're like, but.
And again, I'm not accusing anybody ever, and maybe I'll ask Rennie about this too. But it's like for like 5 years in a row, kind of how people stack up, and people have good days and bad days, and the wind's to your back one day, and times are a little, and then all of a sudden somebody just roadrunner by you, and you're like, bullshit.
Well, it's sad if people that want to compete clean are being held out of the sport because they can't keep pace.
Is there anything?
I don't think that's not triathlon right now by any means.
Yeah,
and I think it's definitely a lot different in individual sports, where if you're on a team sport, sometimes they just, it's a protocol. It's it's how the team runs. You can get sucked into it. You can rationalize it with the team, but I feel like in triathlon, like you have to seek it out, right? So you have to be a pretty
proactive.
Right, yeah. It's pretty intentional.
Well, so I kind of want to wrap this up in a little bit, but on that topic, you did race Lance one time, right?
I did, yep.
How'd that go?
I won.
You beat him?
Yeah, I beat him. I won the race.
And how old were you at the time? I mean,
That was 2012.
he was a national hero.
Yeah, that was fun.
So is that kind of, did you run past him at some point? Or
I did,
were you just
yeah.
out front though?
No, yeah, I think I got off the bike like third or fourth and ran my way up to the win.
He was first probably on the bike?
First or second off the bike, yeah. Sebastian Kienle raced as well, and he's a phenomenal biker. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, really great biker. I can't remember who got off first. Might have been Lance.
What do you think the difference is between the guys in the Tour de France and the guys, the top 10% of Ironman, as far as like bike performance?
Honestly, power to weight ratio is probably the biggest thing. The cyclists are really lean.
Sure, they don't have to swim or...
Right, yeah. So you take a guy like Lionel Sanders, a triathlete, Ironman triathlete. I think if you trimmed him down to the weight of a pro tour rider in terms of power output, yeah. I mean, you got guys, Cam Worth, former pro tour rider. You have a lot of crossover. Andrew Talansky, I think he was maybe 11th one year at the Tour de France.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, he might have been in the top 10. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Top level tour rider at one point. He did 70.3 in St. George, Utah, and I think he had the fourth fastest bike split. So
unreal.
Yeah,
it's close then.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, it's amazing. The level of the sport right now.
Wow,
it's impressive. Yeah, and you got guys like me that have been in it for 15 years that are just trying to keep pace.
Whatever, dude. You are fast. You were way too fast. Couple more things I want to ask about. One, you guys have like a YouTube channel now.
Yeah,
you're putting videos out. What's the idea behind that? Like, why let people into your? Some people are private, some people aren't. Yep. Like, I'm probably more like you guys, like open book, let people in. Like, what was the idea behind that? And tell me about that.
Well, for us, the Tim and Rennie Show on YouTube. If anybody wants to subscribe, that would be awesome.
Definitely, we'll put a link in. And
so we've had a very public life in terms of in the triathlon world. Our story's been, we've grown together. We met each other at a race, and I was there when Rennie won her first Konas, and now having Izzy. We just have this really great connection with our audience, and we wanted to expand on that and just really kind of go beyond the access that everybody normally gets. And I think...
Is it ever uncomfortable? Have you ever been like, Talbot, stop filming right now, we're going to fight?
I mean, to be honest, when you get big into training blocks, you're tired all the time.
Right.
Talbot was here the other day, and he wanted to get some sound bites, and I'm like, dude, I've just done 3 workouts. It was a Tuesday. I got 20 minutes to get some food in and get my bike gear on and get out the door. Like, you know what? I can't take it right now.
Falls off the list.
Right, yeah. But, luckily our producer Talbot's been awesome. He's like a little fly on the wall, and he's willing to travel around the world with us, which is fun. But, we're a small sport, and we're trying to do something bigger. We think we have a fun story. We have 2, top-level professional athletes trying to run around the world and race and, raise our beautiful daughter at the same time. Mm-hmm. And we go to a lot of cool places. So we thought, why not give everybody a glimpse of this, of what's going on, and hopefully we can kind of share the sport with more people.
And so, like, back to your daughter, how has being a dad changed your day-to-day? You were busy before.
Right, yeah.
And now you have a human that you're responsible for.
We are not watching much TV anymore. Sorry, our Kardashians are below deck Mediterranean. I'm sorry. Total Bellas. None of it. We don't get to see any of it anymore. No,
I watch you guys operate, and it's pretty interesting because I hate to put it this way, but it's a bit of a selfish sport. Because
it really is.
It's an individual sport. It takes a lot of time to train. And you guys are at the highest level, which means you're putting as much time in as anybody. And then you have 2 kind of top tier people living under one roof, and I was always impressed you guys did that so well. And then you add a baby,
right?
How I don't even know what question I'm asking. I'm just kind of curious, like, has that been harder than you expected? Has it just been like, oh, we just kind of adapted and here we go?
I wouldn't say hard.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely, I guess, requires more planning.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the days are chock full and you're like on the go. I mean, today I was, in the water at 5:45 a.m. and I got home at a little before 5 p.m., and
it's a long day.
You're running all day. But everything seems just to have so much more joy in it. I think
seems like it.
Yeah, we're so much happier with little Izzy that we can kind of translate that happiness and that joy of life into our training, and that just means we have better workouts and we're performing better in training. So it's really it's fun. It's been a fun year.
I asked Renee today. I said, "What's it like being a mom?" And she just said, "It's the best."
Yeah, she's a great mom too. By the way,
how's Renee as a mom? Like, have you been just?
It's funny because she has such a tough exterior. I mean, she's tough as nails on the race course. There's a great quote where one of their years in Kona, she said, "If anybody gets in the way, I'll kill him."
Yeah, I remember that actually.
Right?
Got me fired up.
Yeah, but Sierra with her daughter it's awesome. I mean, she just has so much love for Izzy, and the number of times in the day where we just we're with Izzy and we just look at each other and smile because we're just thinking this is amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. I'm super happy for you guys.
Thanks,
it's like
bud.
fun to watch this. I'm a little jealous. I do have a dog. He still pees in the house, but he's pretty awesome otherwise. But no, man, it's been fun. And it's been fun to be a tiny, tiny part of just being a friend and following along. It's kind of I'm always amazed with you guys. So
Thanks. Yeah.
Anything else we should cover?
Man, I feel like we got a lot in.
Yeah. And I feel like you probably need some sleep. And I'm still going to talk to Rennie, and you probably have to swim at like 5 a.m. I have nothing.
You're going for a ride tomorrow.
I am. Craig's going to take me out. He'll probably crush us. That's the thing about you guys is everybody says it's an easy spin.
It's not,
an easy spin's like a blender on medium. It's still like 1,000 RPMs.
You'll be fine.
Hope so. Well, he's got a baby too, so I'm hoping
he's got a baby, and we weren't doing keg stands tonight, so he'll be all right tomorrow morning.
This is good wine, but it's not a keg stand. Well, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Where can people find you guys? Like, give me all the.
Yeah, best is the Tim and Rennie Show on the YouTube channel. Other than that, at TO and Try is my Instagram.
TO and Try.
TO and Try, yeah. Instagram, Twitter. Do people still use Twitter?
I think so.
Yeah. I have an account.
Do you use it?
I think I just push everything from.
So just go to Instagram.
Yeah. So go to Instagram.
Here.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
We'll be watching this year, and hopefully we get some more people in you guys' corner for the rest of the season.
I appreciate it. And keep on doing the great things you guys are doing with Uncharted.
Thanks, man. I realize we've had back-to-back and husband and wife triathlon stories as of late, but to me, people in this sport who are successful day in and day out, year in and year out, show traits that we can all appreciate and aspire to. Tim's a pretty happy, chill guy, but he's an expert when it comes to performance, planning, and preparation. And it's always a joy to watch him make that bike fly out on the course. Well, that's it for this week. Until next time.